Hare Krishna. So yes, we are live on YouTube now. So let me share the chapter. So this is the 13th chapter of Krishna book, Stealing of the Boys and Cows by Brahmā. So if you remember, the last chapter was killing of the demon Aghasu. And demon Aghasu, it's a wonderful description of Vrindavan, how children were playing very nicely together. And this Aghasur demon was killed very heroically by Krishna. And then at the end of the chapter, Shukdev Goswami mentions that this killing of Aghasur was narrated by the boys to their parents after 1 year. So immediately, Parikshit Maharaj, he asked questions. How come, they told this story, after 1 year? It was such a, big event of the day. And anything significant happens, immediately the children, they report to their parents, immediately, that this is what has happened today. It took them for them to narrate this story after 1 year. How is this possible? So in reply to the question by Parikshit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami was very happy. So I would request if one of our devotee can read this particular paragraph. Just
I would be happy to read, Prabhu.
Yes, Krishna Mataji, you can read. Yes, you can read the first paragraph only, Mataji. Just the first paragraph.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everybody. Sukadeva Goswami was very much encouraged when Maharaji Parkaset asked him why the cowherd boys did not discuss the death of Aghasura until after 1 year had passed. He explained thus, "My dear king, you are making the subject matter of the transcendental pastimes of Krishna fresher by your inquisitiveness."
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here, it is said that Shukdev Goswami was very much encouraged when Maharaj Parikshit asked him why the cowherd boys discussed the death of Aghasura until after 1 year. So one thing that we learn from here, when when a speaker, he narrates the Krishna's pastimes, and when the audience, somebody from the audience asks some relevant questions, then actually the speaker becomes very encouraged. He says, this is a very attentive audience, and whatever I'm speaking, they are taking that into their heart, and their inquisitiveness is a sign that they are thinking. It is not that they're just listening and nothing happening. So to ask questions in the as audience to the speaker is a very bona fide and a very encouraging sign of the whole gathering. So one should never think that, I should not ask the question. Of course, we should ask the questions. It should have some relevance. So here, Parikshit Maharaj, when he asked the question, Parikshit Maharaj was very happy that, yes, you asked the question. So when Parikshit Maharaj said that it took them for them to narrate this story for 1 year, immediately Parikshit Maharaj asked, 1 year? How is this possible? And you will see in Srimad Bhagavatam, when the whole story is being narrated. At one time, Shukdev Goswami says, that when it comes to the story of Prahlad and his father Hiranyakashipu, Shukdev Goswami says, "Oh, he was such a cruel father. He killed his, he wanted to kill his own son." And immediately, Parikshit Maharaj says, "How is this possible? How can somebody be so cruel to his own child? Please tell me this story in detail." Then Shukdev Goswami, he expands the whole story. So actually, it is a duty of the audience to ask the relevant questions. And when the audience is very attentive, very thinking, when they ask the questions, the speaker, he will expand the topic. So actually, it is not on the speaker only to give all the details of the story. It is the responsibility of the audience also to ask the questions. When the audience is very attentive and ask the questions, then he can give the more detail. And same is with the guru and disciple. A spiritual master and disciple, the disciple should make relevant inquiries. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says very clearly, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. That one should approach a spiritual master, offer a very humble service to him, and ask questions and offer service to him. So first he has to surrender, then offer service to him, then one should ask relevant questions. And that's how the relationship is established. So asking question is a bona fide part of our education. And next, Srila Shukdev Goswami, he says, my dear king, you are making the subject matter of the transcendental pastime of Krishna fresher by your inquisitiveness. What a wonderful statement by Srila Shukdev Goswami. He's saying that because you're asking this question, the whole subject matter of Krishna consciousness, of Krishna's pastime, is becoming more fresh. So when we are very inquisitive, when we are very much, want to know more about bhakti and its related subject, then Shukdev Goswami says the whole subject becomes very fresh, even though the story or the subject matter may be quite old, but because we are very attentive and very inquisitive to know, the whole pastime becomes very fresh, and it becomes fresh by our own inquisitiveness. Krishna Mataji, you can read the next paragraph also.
Thank you. Sorry. It is said that by the nature of the devotee to consequently apply his mind, energy, words, ears, etc., in hearing and chanting about Krishna, this is called Krishna Consciousness. And for one who is wrapped in hearing and chanting about Krishna, the subject matter never becomes acne-eyed or old. That is the significance of transcendental subject matter, in contrast to material subject matter. Material subject matter becomes stale, and one cannot hear a certain subject for a long time. He wants to change. But as far as transcendental subject matter is concerned, it is called Nitya Navayamana.
That's fine. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. This means that one can go on chanting and hearing about the Lord and never feel tired, but remain fresh and eager to hear more and more.
You can do the second paragraph also, Mataji, the next paragraph as well.
In the duty of the spiritual master, it is the duty of the spiritual master to disclose all confidential subject matter to the inquisitive and sincere disciple. Thus, Sukadeva Goswami began to explain why the killing of Agashura was not discussed until 1 year had passed. Sukadeva Goswami told the king, now hear of the secret with attention. After saving my friends from the mouth of Agashura and killing the demon, Lord Krishna brought his friends to the bank of Yamuna and addressed them as follows. My dear friends, you just see how this spot is very nice for taking lunch and playing on the soft, sandy Yamuna bank. You can see how the lotus flowers in the water are beautifully blown and how they distribute their fragrance all around. The chirping of the birds along with the cooing of the peacocks, surrounded by the whispering of the leaves in the trees, combine the present sound vibrations that echo one another. And this just enriches the beautiful scenery created by the trees here. Let us have lunch in this spot because it is already late and we are feeling hungry. Let the calves remain near us and let them drink the water from the Yamuna. while we engage in our lunch taking, the calves may engage in eating the soft grass that are in this, soft grasses that are in this spot.
Thank you so much, Mataji. That's so kind of you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here in the first paragraph, Prabhupada is mentioning that I'll just read the line again. It is said that it is the nature of a devotee to constantly apply his mind, energy, words, ears, etc. in hearing and chanting about Krishna. So Prabhupada mentions that it is the nature. Actually, a devotee, his heart is naturally very attracted towards hearing Krishna's pastimes all the time, 24 hours a day. And here Prabhupada says he applies his mind, energy, words, and ears. It's not that we have to just apply ears. Even we have to use all our words also. Words mean that what we hear, we should also speak to somebody who has not heard this before. So actually our hearing completes, when you're able to speak to somebody else. So a devotee's duty is to also hear and also as well as to speak. Whatever we have heard, we have to just repeat that. Maybe not the same words, but the message should remain as it is. So Prabhupada, it is said that it is the nature of a devotee to constantly apply his mind, energy, words, etc. in hearing and chanting about Krishna. This is called Krishna Conscious, and for one who is wrapped in hearing and chanting about Krishna, the subject matter never becomes hackneyed or old. So Prabhupada says that as long as we are hearing and chanting with rapt attention, then the subject matter never becomes old. Otherwise, because I've heard this story before. What is so new about it? But no, it is actually our own inquisitiveness, our own attention. When we hear it with attentive, rapt attention, then the subject matter, it just reveals itself, by the mercy of the Guru. And it becomes very fresh. And then Prabhupada goes on to explaining that the subject matter of Krishna consciousness or transcendental subject matter is always fresh. And it is not an ordinary subject matter. Ordinary subject matter, if you keep hearing again and again, after sometimes you become bored. There is no freshness in it. It's, I know about this. Like newspaper. Newspaper is all, all mundane news. Even the newspaper is one day old, nobody wants to read it. It has to be fresh. Today's newspaper, what is there? Nowadays when newspaper is getting out of fashion, now it is social media. What is going on in the world? What is my WhatsApp message? What is my Facebook post? What is my Twitter? Or and everybody wants fresh. Something which is in last few hours. Even something is one day old, it is not fresh. Nobody wants to read it or hear or watch it. But transcendental subject matter or subject matters of Krishna consciousness, it is always fresh, no matter how old it is. Like the same pastimes of Krishna stealing cowherd boys and the cows. We are hearing even after 5,000 years later. So this subject matter is not never gets stale. And then now Shukdev Goswami, he is starting the story of how what happens, in the story, that why the story was narrated after 1 year. So Shukdev Goswami begins by saying that the boys, after Krishna ki Lagasur, they were all exhausted because this killing of this huge, giant serpent, 8 miles long, and in the middle, the boys got unconscious, and Krishna brought them back to life, and Krishna killed Lagasur. It was a huge undertaking, and everybody was tired by this time, and it was time for the lunch. So Krishna, I said, okay, let's, my dear friends, let's go and take our lunch. on the bank of Yamuna, the river Yamuna. It was very close by. So let's go there. And then, Krishna said, oh, this Vrindavan is so beautiful. And then he goes on, describing the beauty of Vrindavan. That, these cuckoos are cooing, and then the wind is flowing, and, there's a sound of the leaf. And then the birds are chirping, and then there's a lotus in the water. And Vrindavan, when we go on describing the beauty of Vrindavan, there is no end to it. And Krishna was very happy to see the beauty of Vrindavan. And he said, let's go and go to this place where we will now take our lunch. So they all went in the bank of Yamuna. And then everybody, they sat around Krishna. Krishna was in the middle. And then all the boys, they made a kind of, circles around Krishna. So the first circle, second circle, third circle, fourth circle, fifth circle. And if you remember, in the earlier chapter, Prabhupada explains that there were thousands of boys. They were not just like, 10, 15 boys and that's it. Thousands of boys. But everybody was just happy, just being with Krishna. The boy on the last circle was not envious of the boys in the first circle. He said, how come I'm not in the first circle? He was just happy being in the last circle. And it is mentioned that even though somebody was sitting on the back of Krishna, still he was able to see the Krishna's face. And Krishna, he was just looking at that boy. So every boy was thinking Krishna is just looking at me. He's not looking anywhere else, just looking at me only. Even though I'm on the last row, but Krishna is so much loving me. He's just looking at me only. So this is only God can do it. When we look at somebody, we lose focus on somebody else. But Krishna, he can look at everybody at the same time with the full attention. And still everybody feels that Krishna is actually giving attention to him only. That exclusivity, or that only the God or Krishna can do it. Nobody else can do it. Then they all sat down, and they took their lunch boxes out. And here they mention, Shukdev Goswami mentions, they took the leaves from the trees, or the tree barks, or the flowers, big flowers, and then they put their, whatever their mothers gave them in the lunch box, they use those tree barks and leaves and flowers as the plates. And then they put everything on those plates. My dear friends, what an organic way of eating. Not our, steel or crockery plates. This is a, wonderful way of taking prasad. Maybe someday when we go to Vrindavan, we'll eat like how Krishna ate in Vrindavan. The tradition is still there, in southern part of India. The families, they still eat in the banana leaf. They don't use modern crockery and all. Everything is placed on banana leaf, and then everything is served on the plate, banana leaf, and they eat from that. And then there is no need to wash it. It goes into the the organic dump, and it happens only in India. But then sometimes the leaves are given to the cows or animals, and they eat it. Or even if they don't eat it, it goes to a organic waste, and that leaf, it is decomposed within few days, and it goes back to the earth. So what a eco-friendly way of eating prasad. There is no wastage of water, there is no harmful chemicals involved, and then there is no need of washing, dishwasher. So many things are becomes we don't require so many facilities for this simple endeavor of eating food, eating prasad. Just use the organic plate. And that's why our acharyas, our spiritual masters, they always, encourage us to uh, do simple living, high thinking. Uh, Make your, material needs, reduce it as much as possible. Uh, if the simple act for maintaining our body, we have to eat food. There is, we cannot avoid it. So there is need is there, but that need has to be fulfilled in a very simple way. So this is the how the Brajavasis or the Krishna, he ate prasadam. So in the when all boys were taking prasadam together, they were all happy that Krishna is, they are taking prasadam with Krishna, and all the boys, they actually wanted to feed Krishna. Krishna, look, my mother has brought, has packed this nice laddu. He also eat. And then the other boy says, no, no, Krishna, look, my mother has brought this kheer. You eat this kheer. Other boys would say, no, Krishna, look at this pakoda. It's nice pakoda. You eat this. And all the boys, they all wanted to feed Krishna. I just have one picture. Let's see if I can get it here. Okay, just a second. I hope you're able to see my screen. There's a picture of all the Krishnas and his friends. They're
Beautiful.
taking prasadam together, and they are doing it on the bank of Yamuna. And all the boys, they are just simply happy, serving Krishna. Uh, um, so you can see, the plates, whatever they brought, it is on this nice leaf or a tree bark. And uh, you see the boys are so happy. uh, and we sometimes also do it, so maybe once or twice in a year, we go out with a picnic, and we have our, sandwiches, and we got a nice leg and eat it. We do it once or twice in a year, but Krishna and his friends, they are doing every day. It is every day is a picnic. They're just happy being with Krishna. Uh, and why they are happy? Because Krishna is in the center. When we lose the Krishna being the center of our life, then everything becomes complicated. But here the boys, they're simply happy. Uh, and I don't know if I can zoom it. Uh, yeah, you see our devotee has done this picture so beautifully, uh, that everybody is feeding Krishna. And you see they have lunch boxes. The boys, if you remember last chapter, all the boys had three things: a stick, a buffalo horn, and a flute. So you see, many of the, you can see sticks there, the buffalo horn, and the flute is there. And the boys, they have these nice flowers, decorating their head. This other boy has a nice uh, the pearl strings, and they're having, the garland of flowers, and they're simply happy. uh, and then you see the boys in the last row, he's also simply happy, being there. And the, as we discussed, everybody just saying, Krishna is only giving attention to me only. uh, Now one may ask questions, so maybe this is, this is only for Krishna's friend. Where do I stand in this whole thing? Uh, but actually, my dear friends, this is what we have left behind. Uh, this is actually, we were with Krishna, enjoying these beautiful, beautiful exchanges with Krishna in Golok Vrindavan. And somehow we just, decided, I don't want to, serve Krishna. I want to enjoy myself. Then we came to this horrible world. Uh, but Krishna is inviting us back, my dear child, come back. Uh, We can just resume our nice picnic, in Golok Vrindavan. And this picnic never ends. This exchange of love between Krishna and his devotees never ends. This is just one pastime of Krishna taking prasadam with his friends. There are unlimited pastimes. Uh, as Prabhupada explains, that variety is the mother of enjoyment. The spiritual world is full of variety. Uh, and earlier we discussed in bhakti, in devotional service, nothing is stale. Everything is absolutely fresh. It never gets any more fresher than what freshness we experience in the spiritual world. So anyway, these boys and boys were having nice, wonderful pastimes with Krishna, uh, and in the description, let me see if I can get. There's a beautiful description of how Krishna was eating. Okay, let me share this one. Okay, I'll just read it myself. While Lord Krishna was thus enjoying lunch with his friends, his flute was pushed within the belt of his cloth on his right side, and his bugle and can were pushed in on the left hand side of his cloth. Now listen this. In his left palm, he was holding a lump of food prepared with yogurt, butter, rice, and piece of fruit salad, which could be seen through his petal-like finger joints. Shukdev Goswami has given a complete description of how Krishna's hands look like. So it looks like Krishna was eating a yogurt rice with pieces of fruit salad, and he was holding in his hand, and he was eating like that. Uh, so, uh, and then Prabhupada writes, the same Supreme Personality of Godhead who accepts the results of all great sacrifices was laughing and joking, enjoying lunch with his friends in Vrindavan. And thus the scene was being observed by the demigods from heaven. As for the boys, they were simply enjoying transcendental bliss in the company of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everybody was simply happy, just being with Krishna, taking lunch prasadam with Krishna. And the whole scene was observed from the sky by the demigods. Because demigods, as we heard in the previous chapter, that they were just observing how is Krishna going to kill Aghasur. And then once Aghasur was killed, they also want to say, what is Krishna going to do next? So they just gathered in the sky up. They were observing what is Krishna going to do next. And they were just amazed at how Krishna, he is simply exchanging love while taking prasadam, in the form of, Krishna is taking food from this boy and that boy, and Krishna giving his food to the other boy. And then the demigods, they are wondering that the same Supreme Lord, when we had to make offering to the Lord, we had to make so much arrangement. And the same Supreme Lord is simply taking prasadam in a very simple way. Just eating yogurt and rice. That is, he was simply, they were simply wondering. And at the same time, when Lord Brahma was also there in that assembly, and he was kind of, astonished. As we know, Brahmaji, he is the most intelligent and knowledgeable person in the whole of universe. And he knows there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In his Brahma Samhita prayers, he clearly says, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachida Ananda Vigraha. He knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he knows all the glories, and all the strength, and then the Krishna's pastimes. He knows everything in detail. But when Brahmaji saw Krishna holding this yogurt rice in his hand and exchanging the food with his friends, he became really astonished that Supreme Personality of Godhead, can he be this simple? He's such a small boy. Can he be the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He really got bewildered. So he knew that he is the God, but is he really the God? So he was a little bewildered. So how can I test it? Uh, so he says, let me do a little trick and I will know whether there is a Supreme Lord or not Lord. So here, Brahmaji, he devised a plan. He said, Krishna loves his boys, his friends. He loves the cows. These are the most dearest thing to him right now. So if I take these boys and cows away from him, let me see what he does with that. So while the boys were taking prasad together, the cows, they were just eating in the nearby pastures. Uh, and Brahmaji, he stole those cows, with his mystic power. He took it from there and put it into some cave in a sleep. And after some time, the boys, they notice that where is our cows gone? We don't see anywhere around us here. Where have they gone? And they started searching here. They were a little worried now. So Krishna said, "Don't worry. They must have gone. A little further away. You go and enjoy your prasadam. I will go and search for them." Uh, so Krishna, see here, there's another thing we learn. Krishna, he always wants to give pleasure to his own devotees. When difficult things comes to do, then Krishna says, no, you don't do it. I will do it. Similarly, in our material life, in the world that we are struggling, when we come, we take the shelter under Krishna's lotus feet, and it actually is Krishna, who takes the full responsibility of all our needs. Of course, we have to work, and Krishna inspires and we arrange ourselves. But under we become under Krishna's protection, and Krishna arranges everything for us. So Krishna, he says, don't worry, my dear friends. I will go and search for the cows. Let me see where have they gone. So you see, he's still holding the yogurt rice in his hand, in his palm. And in the same way, he just got up and he started, searching for these cows. And every cows had a name. That, oh, Dhavali, oh, Shamal, where are you? Uh, uh, and Krishna could not find them. So he thought they must have gone, deep inside the forest. So then he came back, where they were taking prasadam. And when he came back on the bank of Yamuna, he saw that these boys, no boys were there. Not a single one of them was there. So Krishna was wondering, where have they gone? So what has happened? Brahmaji, while Krishna was searching for the cows, Brahma came at the bank of Yamuna and he stole the boys, the friends of Krishna, and he hid them in one of the cave in Vrindavan. So then Krishna, he's a supreme personality of Godhead. He knew that this is the doings of Brahma. He wants to test uh, uh, my mystic power. So he knew Brahmaji has done this. Now, if common man would have think, let me teach some lesson to Brahma. Let me go where he is hid my cows and my friends. And common man would have just picked up a fight with Brahma. But Krishna didn't do this. He only fights when it is necessary. So he said, okay, Brahma wants to see my opulence, my mystic power, my godheadness, and he wants to see whether I'm a really a god or not. I will show him, what I'm. So Krishna, he expanded himself as each cows and each boys that Brahma stole. Uh, Brahmaji, actually, he is the creator of every one of us. All the humans, animals, plants, reptiles, insects, aquatics. Wherever you see any design, anything you see in this world, Brahmaji is the creator. He is the designer. Um, so Krishna, he created exact replica of the stolen cows and the boys, exact ditto. uh, and then and these boys and cows, uh, they went to their home in the evening when it was time to go home. They all went back home. So Krishna, he was thinking, I had to teach Brahmaji a lesson, but I also cannot go without my cows and my friends. To satisfy Brahmaji and all Brajabasis, he expanded himself into these cows and boys. They were exact replica. Here Prabhupada writes very much in detail that this is the opulence of the Lord. That he expands himself into many Vishnu forms. He expands into Mahavishnu. He expands in the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and so many incarnations are there. For him to expand into these living entities as cows and boys, it was not as astonishing for him. It was just natural for him. And it was exact replica of the stolen boys and girls. Sorry, boys and cows. So they all went in the evening to their home. And all the boys, now these boys, the original boys are with Brahma. And these are the expansions of Krishna. So they went home, and then the mothers would say, "Oh, my child has come." So, "Oh, you have come. Now, let me give you a bath. You've been, away for a whole day. Let me give you a bath." And then they gave him bath and decorated them, and then gave prasadam. And the mothers today, they were feeling some extraordinary love for their children on that day. Actually, it is explained in Vrindavan, all the gopis, they loved Krishna more than their own child. Now, this is something, we cannot comprehend. Every mother loves his child more than everybody else's child. This is, how mothers do. Their child is most dear to them. But in Vrindavan, it is different. All the gopis, all the mother gopis, they love Krishna more than their own child. But today these gopis were thinking that actually my love for my child, she was thinking he's my child, but actually it was Krishna, Krishna's expansion. So today I'm loving my child, in the same intensity as I'm loving Krishna. What is this happening? So even they could not understand, but they were just drowning, in that affectionate love for their child. They're feeding them, and then that they were decorating them. They were just crying and and bathing them with their own tears, and they were just happy. Uh, and and then after some time, the cows, the mother cows, they also were in pastures, and then they came back home, and then they saw their cows. And here in Vrindavan also, the cows were also loving Krishna more than their own cows. But today, these cows were so, overtaken, by the love of the cows. They just came, and then they just started licking, their cows. I don't know if you've seen anytime seen, the mother cow. They show their love for the cows, by licking their whole body. So just licking and licking and licking, and then they were, their mothers were cows were just shedding tears. Oh, this is my cow. Uh, and this was happening. It happened one day, then 2 days, and 3 days, and 4 days. All it went for the whole year like this. And the whole Brajavasi, they were thinking, what is happening with us? We are loving our children more than Krishna. How is this possible? Uh, and it went like this for a whole year. Uh, Now here, my dear friends, we'll take a little pause. Uh, that why Krishna did this. Uh, so one of the explanation um, uh, given by our acharyas is that Krishna fulfills everyone's desire. Whatever desire we have for serving Krishna, Krishna always fulfills that. So these gopis, they were when Krishna and the boys they were started going to the pastures. For them, separation of Krishna even for few hours was unbearable. And they wanted Krishna that Krishna separation should never be there. So they wanted Krishna all the time. And also when Krishna comes back home, he goes to his own house, Mother Yashoda's house. They could only see Krishna for for few minutes or few hours. But they wanted Krishna all the time. And the cows also, they thought, when we go to the pastures, we don't see Krishna. And in the evening also, he goes to his house. So, but we want Krishna to be with us all the time. So to fulfill that desire, Krishna, he arranged this whole pastime. That now, Krishna is with the cows, all the cows where they wanted Krishna. So in the form of cows, it was Krishna that is there with them. And with the gopis, they thought they are my children, but actually it was Krishna, and that's how the gopis were satisfied, and the cows were also satisfied. So this way, it is everything was happening. The the whole pastime was going on for whole year, and nobody noticed. I mean, gopis and cows, did notice that our love for our children is really amazing, but nobody noticed that actually it was Krishna. In those boys and cows were actually Krishna, uh, but nobody noticed this. But one day, Balram noticed it that something is not right. Uh, uh, there is something, I don't, this the gopis are loving their children like anything, and cows are so happy with these cows. There is something is not right. So, one might ask questions, why come Balram, did not knew this. So it is said that, when the Aghasur was killed, that day it was Balram's birthday. So he stayed home on that day. So when Aghasur was killed, Balram was not in the party of the boys. So Balram did not see the Aghasur's killing. So he did not knew what happened, how that Brahmā stole all these cows and boys. So when the evening the boys and cows came back, the Balram was not aware that this has happened. But 1 year later, he realized, something is not right. So what has happened that one day, Balram, he was there with the boys and cows in the pastures. And, the boys were in charge of the calves, the baby calf. And the cows were the responsibility of the grown-up, Brajavasis, the grown-up Gopas. So one day, they all met very nearby. All the cows were on the top of the Govardhan hill, and the children are in the plains, and at the foothill of Govardhan hill. And on that day, the cows, they saw their calf, grazing on the foothills of Govardhan hill. And when the cow saw his own calf, they could not stop, going to their own calf. Why? Because this calf were actually Krishna. So they just, left everything and they just galloped towards towards their calf. And they were just galloping and galloping and galloping. And on the way, because of their love, their milk bags were just overflowing with the milk. It says, they were just, they were just milk everywhere while they're galloping. And they came, and then they just saw their calf and they started leaking and leaking and leaking. Uh, and then the Balram was astonished. I never seen this scene before. How is this like this? And all the cowherd boys, Gopas, and they said, oh, cows are running away. So they said, oh, this is not right. So they started chasing cows. And then they came, where they were licking their cows. So they were a little angry and upset. But when they saw their own children, their children was party of Krishna's party, of the of looking after the cows. So they saw their children. And when they saw their children, now it was not their children, it was Krishna. When they saw their own children, all their anger and the disappointments melted. So this is my child, just picked up their child, and started, smelling their head and kissing, and they're just crying and crying and crying. And then the whole of their, body was just wet, by their tears. And then, Balram saw this, said, oh, this is really unusual. I've never seen this happening in Vrindavan. There is something unusual. So Balram noticed it. That something is not right. So then he asked Krishna, because see, Balram is a supreme personality of Godhead. But Krishna is original. So this pastime, even Balram could not fathom what exactly has happened. So then he asked Krishna, what has happened? So Krishna said, this Brahmā, he stole our friends. He stole our cows, So I expanded myself as his calf and boys. Then Balaram said, oh, yes, now it makes sense. Yes, this is why, so things are not as used to be, things are, different. So while this was happening, Lord Brahmā, he appeared on the scene. Now, for Lord Brahmā, the whole 1 year was just one moment. So Prabhupada describes in the Krishna book that Brahma's time factor and our time factor is in different dimension. Brahma's 1 day, it is 4.4 billion 320 million years is Brahma's 1 day. It is 12 hours. And same is the size, duration of his night. So Brahma's 1 day and our 1 day, it is completely different. So for us, what is 1 year? It is one moment for Lord Brahmā. So Lord Brahmā, he thought, I've just hit these boys and cows for one moment. But in one moment, the whole year has passed in Vrindavan. So he came and he said, let's see what Krishna is doing. So when he came on the scene, he saw that actually those boys and cows was there. And Brahmā, he said, how is this possible? I've stole them, but they're here. So he goes back, to the place, where he has hid the boys and cows. So they are here. But then again comes back, to the place where the boys are there. So he said, what's happening? He says, when am I coming to the Krishna? Is the boys coming here? And when I go there again, they are put it back into the caves? Or is it some mystic power? Or what's happening? And Brahmā becomes really bewildered. And he goes and checks them. He said, they are actually the same boys and girls what I've stolen. There is no difference. At one time, he becomes even bewildered. He says, is the Krishna, the sets of boys and calves, they are original and I've got duplicate, or mine is original and they are duplicate. But he says, no, they are all identical. They're both original. Now, this is, it cannot be true. There cannot be two original. Original is always one. There cannot be two originals. But Brahma says, no, they are both originals. How is this possible? Uh, and then Brahma, he said, I said, I'm the great mystic. I've got all these yogic siddhis. Uh, um, uh, and I can see that, Krishna, he has created them, but they are not result of some yogic power. They are original. They are not out of some reflection, because it is said, when you get certain yogic siddhi, you can expand or you can create something. Like nowadays, we have hologram. The one person stands at one place and you can see his reflection in some other part of the world. But in the hologram, if person raises the hand and original raises hand, the hologram also raises the hand. So yogis, they have this power, they can expand. But Brahmaji is concluded, no, this is not, the result of some yogic siddhi, some power. This is something completely different. So then Brahmaji, he becomes completely uh, uh, clueless. So I don't know what is happening. At that time, the Brahmaji, he thinks that actually I'm thinking that I am a great mystic, I'm very powerful, but in front of Krishna, uh, I'm I'm just like a glowworm in the bright daylight. This is what the analogy is given in the book. Brahmaji is considering himself as the glowworm in the bright daylight. I don't know how many of you have seen glowworm. I've seen, few times when I was small baby, small boy in the village. This glowworm, they come out in the night. Everything is dark, and this glowworm, you can see everywhere. And the glowworm thinks, see, I'm so bright. Uh, and then they are very proud, and they say, see, because of us, we can see everything. Uh, but in the morning, when the night, when the sun comes out, uh, 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 the glowworms, even if they are there, they can't even notice them. Uh, so Brahmaji felt like, that I'm just like a glowworm in the broad daylight. Krishna is a supreme mystic. And then he understood, yes, this is Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead. Uh, so, my dear friends, we stop here. It is already 9:15 now. We haven't yet finished the chapter yet. So after this, Lord Brahma, he uh, offers prayers to Krishna. So next week we'll conclude this chapter, this few of the last few things on this chapter, and then we'll begin the part where Lord Brahma is offering prayers to Krishna, and then we'll also narrate few of the things from Vrindavan, the that place where this whole thing happened. That village is still there. The village is called Chomuha. You know, Brajabasis, they because Lord Brahma has four heads. So Chomuha means person with the four heads. So this is the place Lord Brahma came. The person with the four heads came. So in Brajabasa means Chomuha means a person with four heads. That village is still there. So next week we'll carry forward our discussion more next week. I stop here. If anybody's any questions or comments or anything that you like to share, you can do it now. Um, just a second. I will stop our YouTube. Then, meantime, just give me 1 minute.